technical difficulties. So we'll call to order this meeting at 5:10 on September 20th. This is our open session. The board met previously for closed. The closed session is not complete. We'll go back into closed after this meeting. So for now, we call to order. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest, board members? None. Seeing none.
Before we went into closed.
We did do that earlier for closed. I just wanted to make sure it was on camera as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And a motion to approve the agenda for the open session. Could I have someone? Mary Rose, Andy McIntosh. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Ian, are you good?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you, sir. So we're into our public session, and we are going to start first of all with a presentation. And David and Vivian are here to present. They're going to share their PowerPoint presentation. And so I don't want to steal your thunder, but we're going to talk about a little bit about autism. And I thank you both for joining us. Mary Lou, are you able to share that presentation for us, or how are we going to do this so that the public can see as well?
I can share my screen. Does it work?
You'll share yours? Sure, that's great.
I can share it directly. I'm hoping that'll work.
Yeah.
Okay, so give me a second. Let me just. Can everybody see that?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay, all right, then we should be good. Okay, hold on, I just have to. Just 1 minute, I'm just moving a little screen over so I can read everything on my screen too. Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Vivian Petho and my husband is David Vahi, and we're presenting today, and our project idea is called Bridging the Gap, Solomon's Pilot Project. And our hopeful goal is to create an autism liaison officer for our community. And this is a picture of our son Solomon here on the front page.
It's a great picture.
He loves the camera when he's ready to take a picture, only on his terms though.
That's very good. Will it change for you?
I don't know. Oh, sorry, it is. It just, there we go. Okay.
Just slow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously we've already introduced ourselves, so we'll move on to the goal. So what is our goal? Our goal has always been to educate our family, our friends in our community about what being autistic means. And it's honestly a lifelong venture as a parent. And some of the other things mentioned there that hopefully you guys have watched the video. We've done some video work with Art of Storytelling. It was part of a Canada-wide contest, actually, to raise issues, various issues, mental health issues, about autism, disability, that sort of thing. And that is out there, so hopefully you've watched it, and if not, please do get a
Art of Storytelling is a local company, correct?
Right, they do a lot of the videography for the businesses. They just did Walk Off the Earth, and
they did the Love Orangeville, that new publicity campaign as well. So yeah, they're well known in the community. They did a really excellent little story for us. So
that's great.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to add to that. So in terms of like qualifications that I've obtained along the time, like I have an ECE certificate. I also have an ESL certificate and a TOEFL certificate. If you don't know what that is, that's Teach English as a Foreign Language. And I also just recently attained a certificate in study of ASD, autism spectrum disorder, through Carrie's Place. So that's just some of the background that I have. Oh. Okay, so.
All right, so how did we get here? Just to give you a sort of chronology, it started with recent events, the unfortunate tragic drowning of Draven Graham. We reached out to a writer at the Orangeville Banner, and we were featured along with 2 other parents and their children in an article about that. Subsequently, as some are aware here, we also reached out to Town Council, and they passed a motion to suggest to the province to update the Amber Alert to count for children with autism. And then in the process, we started talking about this project, and through Councillor Taylor and Councillor Post, we were invited to share our ideas here.
That's great.
Okay, so who's Solomon? So Solomon is our 9-year-old autistic son who's an active member of his school and community. So we have some pictures of him here. On the left, you're going to see him watering a garden. You might recognize this, anybody of the police side, because it's the other half, it's the hydro. We work for the Horticultural Society, and our son is a volunteer and he helps weed and do all that kind of work. So he's always out there in the community. The second picture there, that's at Casey Gardens. Through the Lions Club, they had a contest about a year ago, and he helped design this. We designed this bench for Orangeville for everybody. And the third picture is our son just started playing hockey last year with the Orangeville Wolves. They're the local team for children and adults with disabilities. And he couldn't skate at the beginning of the season, and by the end of the season, he scored his first goal. So he's a little different, but he's able to do it with some time.
That's great. That bench project, I'm very aware of that. So that's the Optimist Club, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
It's just great. Yeah, congratulations.
Okay. Hold on, it's sticking again. Give me one minute. There we go.
All right, so some of the challenges and concerns. Obviously, Solomon's a wonderful, smart, compassionate boy, but being autistic is not easy at all in this world. Over time, we've had issues related to stimming, elopement, wandering, and most recently, meltdowns. All these terms you can find in the attachment, the document that we sent. And it's one of those things that as they get bigger, the issues sometimes get bigger. So now you can see actually a picture there. Recently, we were down in Brantford. Solomon's on the path to get a service dog from Autism Dog Services. And this is him featured with a puppy who's being raised in Stratford, Ontario.
That's great. Could you define stimming?
Right. So stimming is a repetitive action that a child may do. Some will spin, some will hit their head, some will flap their hands. Solomon is known to stim, flap his hands when he's faced with an automatic door. So automatic doors in his school have been turned off for this reason because it's a safety issue. And different children do different things, and it's different varieties. And some kids are very self-harming because they don't realize that they're hurting themselves or that they're a danger to others. So a lot of times it's redirect. So kids with autism, you'll often see them with like a fidget toy, something to play with in their hands so they can focus on that instead of doing the action which may be harmful to them or to others.
Got it. And would the dog stay with Solomon all the time, go to school? And
so not to get into too much detail about that, we could talk about it at a later date, but basically a dog like this, they have the option where they tether the dog. So the dog will be about 2 years old, full grown when we would get this dog, and it'd be fully trained, and they would tether it from its harness on its back to his waist. So it gets the stay command at every intersection from the parent who's with him. So the dog will sit, and he will not be able to go till I give the command to the dog to step again. And we cross, just in context, we cross 9 streets on our way to school. So when we get this dog, it will be really good because Solomon has stepped into live traffic. Wow. And as he gets bigger, I'm not going to be able to grab him and pull him back. He's 9 now, but in 3-4 years, when he's a teenager, I won't be able to help him that way. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so our idea is to create a community helper or liaison officer trained about autism with the goal to establish a positive relationship between police and autistic individuals in the community. And I went on the OPP website and I found that we feel that this would well align with the values of the OPP and, in quotes, interacting with respect, compassion, and fairness.
Okay, so just some added notes from other international renowned agencies. The World Health Organization recently said that care for people with autism needs to be accompanied by actions at community and societal levels for greater accessibility, inclusivity, and support. And the United Nations has repeatedly issued this, but this was done 8 years ago, reiterating commitments to safeguard citizens from discrimination and social exclusion on the grounds of disability, irrespective of the underlying impairment, whether physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory, according to the rights of the persons with disability, and promoting all persons' basic necessities of life, education, healthcare, and social security, as well as ensuring attention to vulnerable persons.
Okay, so I reached out to, this was a study done in Dufferin County, just completed. I think the stats were taken in 2019, and they created this community safety and well-being plan. And I know a bunch of agencies were involved in it. I spoke to Jennifer Payne. She is she's the person from Headwaters Communities in Action, and she was the chair on this. And we looked at this, and I pulled this particular one on the provincial level because, as you see, that police are usually in the center at the incident response. Our whole idea is here that, you know, hopefully that police could be on some of the other points of contact before we get to high-level incident with a person who's autistic. So the terms are defined. Did everybody receive the terms in the email?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
I hope you guys have had a chance to look at them. I'm just going to read through them. If there's any ones you want a little more clarification on, please let me know. But so the first one is the Augmentative and Alternative Communication AAC device. You will see some children who carry this. It would be like an iPad or some kind of information or little cards that they would exchange and give to a person to demonstrate what they needed. And the iPads have an option where if they choose something, it speaks, so the person receiving the information could understand what this autistic person was trying to ask for. Then we have autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD. And then a big one here is autistic person versus individual versus person with autism. We're going to refer to people as autistic people. And if you looked at the definition, it's a suggestion that it's an autistic person. We're giving person identity, as in the same way you would say African Canadian, or if you would say Jewish, or you would say Muslim, versus saying person with autism, which makes it sound like it's like autism is something that you could take away from a person in the same way you can't take away a person's skin color. So it is not it's not a person with, but it's an autistic person. We're also going to look at cognitive rigidity, elopement wandering, masking, and the other terms are meltdown, nonverbal, non-speaking, neurodivergent versus neurotypical, selective mutism, sensory processing disorder, and stimming. Did anybody want any of those terms further defined, or?
I asked my question already. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I don't want to have anybody overwhelmed or confused because they don't understand the terms.
Yeah.
That's all. Because there's a lot here, and I know like we live this every day, but I don't expect the general community to know any of these terms. And if they do, I'm happy that they do.
So I had a question on selective autism. It's Ian McSweeney.
Selective mutism?
No, selective mutism.
Yeah. So literally, this is where a person would choose to stay silent versus speaking. So they have the ability to speak, but because they're overwhelmed by the situation at hand, as in they're approached, or we'll talk about an incident with police officers with an individual where he chose not to speak at the time, and that was construed differently than how the person was feeling, but the person wasn't able to describe why they chose to be quiet. So selective mutism literally means a choice of not speaking in a position where they felt overwhelmed.
Thank you.
Or the inability, or the inability to speak because they were overwhelmed by the situation. Does that help?
Yes, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay.
All right, so just going to run through some basic facts and figures about autism. So according to the CDC, approximately 1 in 67 people are born with autism. You'll see variations in this data. And part of the reason is the next one, which is Autism Ontario reported that there are approximately about 135,000 autistic people in Ontario. Now, this is the distinction, that are diagnosed. That means a formal diagnosis. So that does not account for people who are undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, self-diagnosed, or waiting to be diagnosed. And then further to that, the Journal of the American Medical Association noted that 80% of autism risk can be traced to inherited genes. This is not acquired, it's something somebody is born with usually. And then of those, 25 to 30% of them are non-speaking or minimally speaking.
So I kind of wrote a disclaimer here for everybody. So we know that in the last few years that there've been much criticism of police forces everywhere when dealing with difficult situations. So the case studies that we've selected are not to cast blame or aspersion on law enforcement individuals, but instead to highlight the difficulties that autistic individuals face when dealing with police. So this is why we're looking to bridge the gap.
So the first one I'm sure everybody is very familiar with. We've already referenced it. It's the matter with Draven Graham in Lindsay, Ontario that happened this past June. So some facts that pertain to this case just generally about autism. So this is a really strong statistic that you see everywhere. 2009 to 2011, National Autism Association did a survey and figured out that 91% of total US deaths reported in autistic children, 14 and under. This is after elopement. That drowning was when children eloped, 91% of their deaths following elopement were drowning. And then another fact is also 1/3 of autistic children, this is National Autism Association, 1/3 of autistic children who wander or elope are actually never or rarely able to communicate name, address, and phone number, something basic that we've all grown up being told to know to tell, you know, a police officer or an adult that you find.
So Mr. McSweeney, this would speak to the selective mutism that we were talking about. So you could understand that in the situation of being so stressed, even if they know this stuff by rote, they may not be able to express it because they're so stressed out by the situation of being lost.
Yep, understood.
Okay, and then some specific points related to this case. Draven was non-speaking and used an AAC device. And he, as everybody knows, eloped from the safety of his own house. So now we thought it was important to include all the law enforcement that was involved just to give some perspective. So Kawartha Lakes Police were involved, OPP, Underwater Search and Recovery, Helicopter Unit, K9 Unit, Peterborough K9 Unit, and local volunteer firefighters. And of course, the conclusion we all know, unfortunately, he was found dead and drowned.
So I'm going to talk about a second case study. So this was an autistic Indigenous man in Stratford Police, June of 2015. The link here has the actual connection to the article, but basically it was an altercation with police. The gentleman was walking home late one evening and he was stopped by the police. And so here are the points from an autistic perspective, from his own perspective, because he was a speaking individual. So it turns out in this case, he chose not to speak, decided to be selectively mute. This aggravated the situation, and he ended up face down on the ground with bruises on his face.
Concussion.
And a concussion, as you're saying. So, and he said he was uncomfortable talking to police, and he was also taught by not to talk to police, and he's watched cop shows and believed that talking with the police got you in trouble. So it's the key points here we want to take away from the selective mutism, and then cognitive rigidity. Literally these last 2 points of taught not to talk to the police and watching cop shows. These ideas were already so ingrained in his brain, he couldn't think of any other way to react. So again, these are things that are unfortunate, things that a police officer or anybody may not realize, but this is something that this autistic person is living every day. And then again, so here we had the law enforcement involved was the Stratford Police and the Special Investigations Unit. A conclusion was the SIU investigated and charges were dropped and the officers were not charged. And we have case study 3. So this was an autistic female youth in the OPP. This was in the Ottawa region in July of 2020. So again, fact, autism in females misdiagnosed 80% of the time, according to the Children's Journal in 2022. And there's a 4-to-1 ratio of male to female diagnoses, just so you know that how big that is. And then, so here again, this is what the girls said. So they were playing Ding Dong Ditch. I don't know if you know what that is, but literally, run up to somebody's doorbell, ring it, run away. So they were caught. And when she was confronted by the police, she identified herself as autistic to them, and then she warned them that not to touch her because she's autistic. And then the touch escalated violently, and she was also accused of being dramatic. But again, in the situation, it was hard for her to understand why she knew she was doing something wrong, but she didn't understand the full extent of why it was wrong. And so here we're going to talk about the key points related to autism, masking, and a big reason why a lot of girls are not diagnosed correctly is because they're able to fit in better versus boys who might have very distinctive things. Girls seem to be a little bit better at covering some of their autistic traits and turning them into something else. So they appear like they're like everybody else, but they're not. And then obviously she had a meltdown here. And again, I put in here possible sensory processing disorder because she didn't want to be touched. And here we had the law enforcement was the OPP. And the conclusion was individual was charged under trespass to property act, failing to leave premises when directed to and under the criminal code, causing a disturbance and assaulting a police officer. Okay, does anybody have any questions here before I go on to like the last little parts about the resources?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Nope, we're good. Okay, just making sure. All right, so what we're looking to do is we're hoping to do is looking at creating some sort of position in that somebody who is trained, I'm not saying necessarily every officer in the field, but somebody as a liaison officer, the same way that we have things like victim services in the community for when there are very bad things that happen. So I've reached out to the people who did some training with me when I did this autism spectrum disorder certificate with Carrie's Place. And she told me that these are some of the courses that they offer. What is ASD, stress and anxiety, communication, the sensory world. Everyone learns differently. And she did indicate to me that she has presented this to other police services when they do their mental health and awareness training for new recruits and young officers. And so that's on that point of it. And the other thing I want to talk about, which apparently I've been getting a lot of information about recently, is Project Lifesaver. Has anybody here heard of it?
One person has heard of course.
What, I'm sorry, I can't see who's said they've heard of it. Can they just
Inspector Ward is.
Of course, Inspector Ward, I would expect that you would know what this is, yes. Yeah. So Project Lifesaver, so I will describe it briefly. People are given something that looks like a smartwatch, but it's not a smartwatch. It works on a radio frequency. A person who is autistic, they wear a bracelet. So if you've ever been to like any theme park or something, but those snapped-on bracelets that do not come off unless you cut them off with a pair of scissors, if you know what I'm talking about, we've all been to an amusement park with those really old school ones where it's snapped to, and it's on your wrist. These stay on your wrist if you're an autistic individual, and it can transmit effectively, and especially when I was understanding it, it can transmit effectively even in shallow water, for example, better than GPS, because as we know, we live in a region where it's GPS signals are spotty if you drive outside of Orangeville sometimes. So this would be it's a radio frequency. So basically, I talked to somebody at Victim Services Guelph Police. She's Liz Kent. And so these are just some stats from it. It says basically time to take finding people with Project Lifesaver, average of 30 minutes. So 95 less than without it. And Project Lifesaver has 100% find rate, which is like an awesome stat. And this is something that's now all over the world, and a lot of other communities have it. I've been speaking to Wellington and OPP. They have the program running there. It's also running in Caledon and a bunch of other areas. As I say, this is a kind of two-pronged thing that we're talking about because both of these things are really important to us. So.
Okay, so just coming to the conclusion, obviously we gave you a lot of statistics, facts, and terminology, hopefully not too overwhelming. But at the end of the day, these are people first. who deserve a fair interaction with law enforcement, and this is why we need to, quote, bridge the gap and have a liaison officer in our community.
And that'd be it. Are there any questions on anything we've talked about?
Thank you for humanizing and just an excellent presentation. Thank you very much for
Yes,
that.
thank you very much.
May I ask, Terry,
question
you
is
seem to know a lot about Project Lifesaver when that came up. Is that something that, do we have any of that going on here? Or are you going to tell me that that is, it's probably an extra service, right? That we'd have to talk about at the town, or how would that?
No, so what it
No.
is, it's something that Jen was working on.
Okay, great.
So our biggest two hurdles with that is you have to have a group that's willing to be the administrator of it. It's not police administratively run. Usually victim services or some other community group are the one that take the lead on it. The other part of it is it can be a little bit cost prohibited because those bands and the batteries and everything else need to be maintained. So you have to have someone else, whatever group steps in to run it. They're also the ones that need to make sure that everything's maintained. The police end up being trained on the tracking device, and we end up being responsible for that. That should someone with a band go missing, then it's activated and go it that way. So no, it is something that's on our radar for sure. It's just, I know there was no one has stepped up yet to be the lead organization to kind of take the run on it. I mean, we're more than willing to do our part. It's just you need that other group to maintain it, do the sign up, get the people registered, and then we take our lead from that. So that's where we're at. It's still on the radar for sure. We actually have had Wellington County cross the border into Dufferin a couple times, and we have a couple people down in the bottom end there that are hooked up to Project Lifesaver. So should that something happen there, we have those abilities to call them in. But it is something I'd like to look at, especially for Dufferin. It's just we need that partnership with the community, with a group that's willing to take the lead.
Terry, if I may, who would be an example of someone that would administer it? Like, is that like we talked about Carrie's place? That doesn't feel like that's necessarily.
Well,
I don't know. I'm dangerous here.
I mean,
what would be an example of who would do that?
Well, there's no set example of any, but like victim services can take it on, whatever group. You just have to have someone that's willing to take it on, right?
Who does it in Wellington? Who is the?
I can speak to it. Like I've actually spoke to Heather Nellis there, the police constable who helps run it, and she and Liz Kent out of Guelph Police Victim Services. Liz Kent is from Guelph. They say they're happy to come down and present and explain it all to the police directly within Orangeville if it's an interest. I can totally give any connective things to them. And they say basically in their communities, they spoke to me and explained to me that some other agencies have helped do the fundraising for the initial startup. That's how they did it in their communities. And that various organizations, like example, Guelph Victim Services is handling it. I don't know here in Orangeville what Victim Services like reaches in terms of how many things it handles, because I know Victim Services is a large basket of things. But as I say, I've been speaking to these various individuals. I can definitely forward any information that I have, because they say they're more than happy to come present and explain the dollars and cents part of it and how to get it running. And I've just gotten a few more connection points today as well from Heather Nellis. So somebody else that she gave me a link to who started up through an individual who helped start it up in Barrie, Simcoe, Collingwood. So this is a thing it's pretty much all the way around us. It's just Dufferin is, as he was saying there, that at the bottom end, I did get information that they've crossed into the bottom end of Orangeville, so for a few individuals who are hooked into the system through Wellington.
So, Mr. Chair, it's Ian McSweeney. A couple of questions or clarifications. So first, am I right in understanding that regardless of which organization undertakes to take the lead in terms of the administration of this, that there's a heavy element of coordination with the local police force. Is that a fair takeaway?
I wouldn't say it's heavy. It's just the initial startup. Once it gets up and running, I think it pretty much is self-sufficient. It's just that initial cost. There's initial cost and some training involved with the officers and then the families that choose to sign up. And then there's the administrative part of getting those families signed up, getting the bands and the batteries and everything else ordered and getting it in play. So it's front loaded heavy, but then once it's up and running, I think it pretty much looks after itself as long as you have that administrative group that are willing to like I say, change the batteries, make sure that everything's working fine for the unit, that if it's needed to be activated, that it works.
So thanks, Terry. But like the elephant in the room here, the broader issue, I suspect, is one of a broader training program for police forces in general on how to deal with individuals with this ailment. Like sort of look at specific programs, but it just seems that there's a broader issue there. And my second question to David and Vivian is, I've been recently appointed to the board of DCAFs, and I'm just wondering whether you have thought of making a presentation to DCAF, to Jennifer Moore at DCAFs, which is the Dufferin County Family and Children Services, with respect to your points.
Jennifer who, sorry?
Jennifer Moore. She's the CEO of DCAFs,
Yeah,
which is.
I know who she is. I'm already connected through DCAFs for my son.
Okay.
So I can definitely reach out to her. I can actually also connect with a new person who's a new connection, because one of the ladies retired who I was connected to. So there's a new person that I reach out to as well that I can bounce through the information. Yeah, I mean, as I say, like this idea where we're talking about is literally that we don't want autism to be looked at as an ailment or something like that. We're just, people are different.
I apologize for that.
Oh no, that's fine. I just want to let you know that I understand it's a choice of words, but it's a very touchy subject to suggest that, a person they're not impaired per se that way. They see the world differently is all we want to say about this, and that more awareness, just as we train for mental health awareness in schools and everywhere else, that this is another facet that this community is we have a large group of people in this community. The Autism Speaks Walk shows you that every year, that don't come out to reach out to police. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's only in crisis situations because they don't know if they're going to have the support or the understanding, and they can't expect that if people aren't educated. And I think that's a fair thing to say. I mean, before I had a child with autism, I would have had no clue. I've taken the time to learn, and I just feel that there's an opportunity for everybody to learn, because we want to accept each other to be, the people we are, and not try to change people. So this is about acceptance and people being aware more than anything else.
How much money is it for the admin portion? We haven't heard any facts or figures. Is there an understanding of that?
Okay, so if we're going to talk, which part would you like? Project Lifesaver or the Carey's Place training courses? The Carey's Place training courses, I'd have to reach back out to them. They say that if the agency, the police force, whoever approaches them about it, it's they work it out amongst they didn't have a statement as to what, but all I can tell you that I know for sure is each of these those programs that I was showing, that's about a 2.5 hour training session about each of these things for the officers involved. Carey's Place and the OPP, like Orangeville OPP, would have to have a conversation about exact figures, because that's not something that's per agency that they determine how many officers have to be trained and how many sessions that they're choosing. So I don't have a number on that one. The project Lifesaver, I know it's in the range of about $5,000 to $10,000 for the startup as an approximate. I don't want to give a hard figure. That's the rough amount for getting, as Mr. Ward was saying, about getting the bracelets and getting the batteries, and then also the training and such and so forth. But the lady I was speaking to at Wellington, from Wellington, she's a police constable there, Heather Nellis. She said she's doing training in Caledon in early October for officers there, as an example. So.
Okay. If you could find out and let us know about the costs for Carrie's Pace. So I understand the costs are 5 to 10K for Project
That's
Lifesaver.
approximate. That's what she's getting. That's what they. That's
Okay.
Sorry. That's for Project Lifesaver. For Carrie's Place, I don't know exactly, but I can definitely forward that information.
I'm understanding that. Yeah. What I'm asking for is if you could send us that information. And I'm just thinking about, we have a large community here. So there's really two ties to it. One is we have the expert on the phone, and Inspector Ward has spoke up right away and said he knew all about it. So that's excellent. Sounds like there's an ability to do it. It's just there would be a funding issue. And how do we resolve the funding issue? And there is quite a few organizations here in town that, if they decided to take up the cause, could do that. Another one that could potentially help, and I'm going to stare at our deputy mayor who's on this call, and the town has things that we could do as well. And that wouldn't get done this year, unfortunately, because budgets are closed. But once January starts, it starts again. And there's certainly money for community groups and causes that could be filtered out, and the amount that you're talking about would be suitable for that. It's not $100,000 fund, but it's a $5,000 to $10,000, $15,000 fund. So we could certainly talk about that as well. So I think, like, as a follow-up here, it's probably best if you were able to find out those costs and either send it to myself, and it'd be great if you could send it to the deputy mayor as well. And if you had the email addresses for the Police Services Board, that's fine. If not, myself and Deputy Mayor McIntosh will certainly share that out. But I think that's probably next steps, is to have that information on that, and then we'll see where we can go forward. And then my last summary, I'm just trying to close this up and see where we're going to go. It would be great if you could reach out to Jennifer. She is the person with all the contacts for what you're talking about, and at the very least gain her expertise, and then perhaps there's something that we can work together on. I'm not certain if there is or there isn't. I just think we need to make sure that we're reaching out to all the experts first, and then and going at it in this way. It's a very small community, Vivian. Like, we know who all the players are. It won't take long for us to get everybody together in a room and figure out what can be done, if anything can be done, right? No promises, but certainly I think what you're asking for is within the realm.
Oh, thank you. Mr. McIntosh had a question, I see. I'm assuming it's
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you. I was just going to say that this is the type of thing that those grants were made for. So
Agreed.
I would like to see it come to council with a request, because I think it would have no problem passing.
Well, excellent.
Thank you for your presentation.
I really appreciate that.
The biggest thing, I'll just interject on that, is the money is one issue, but you have to have a group that's going to run it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have someone that's going to do the administration piece as well.
And I think that's crystal clear. Like, that's why I think it's so important to reach in with DCAFs, and whether DCAFs would do it, I don't know. I wouldn't speak for them. However, they may know someone that might be able to help us.
Oh, fair enough. Yes, and I totally understand that. As I say, I know DCAFs is an integral part of my life, because they are there for as a reach out thing. I don't know if you guys also know about, have you heard of the organization called Caregivers in the Hills? It's a newer organization, and what they're doing is, Andy McIntosh is nodding, so he knows. Yep. Okay. Caregivers in the Hills is a newer organization. They just got granted some government funding last year. So the startup is basically, caregivers are given a badge to wear through the organization. And these people who run this organization will come in to help mediate. Let's say my son is an adult and I have to take him to a doctor, and the doctor says, no, I want your child to come in. But I said, well, he doesn't speak well enough. In case the doctor denies my request to go in, a person from Caregivers in the Hills would come and mediate to help that. And then we've had a friend who had a problem with getting her service dog in the place that she had to stay temporarily. They didn't want to allow the service dog. Again, caregivers in the Hills stepped in. I have some contacts there. I can reach out and check with them too and see. I'm not sure what their breadth is, but it's already similar. They help people who look after people with special needs, whether it be like cognitive things of older people or cognitive of younger people, or just in general, any caregivers. So
Okay.
I'll reach out. I can reach out to some of my organizations and then touch base back again with you, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, if you could filter it back, that'd be great. I just want to be clear, we're not promising anything here today, because I don't know how this is going to go, but you have a group of people here that were very captivated by your presentation, and if we can help, we're certainly going to do so. So if you could reach back out to us, that would be great. And I really thank you both for your time. As someone who has a developmentally challenged brother and know all of the situations that we had to go through as a family, I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and advocating on behalf of your son is amazing. So congratulations to you both, and thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, everyone. So do we need a motion to receive that report?
So moved.
I think we do. Mary Rose, thank you.
Second.
And
Second, Ken. Ken.
I think the deputy mayor beat you, Ken. So
Oh, did he? Okay.
He did. All in favor of receiving that excellent report. Thank you, everyone. We went a little bit over, and I apologize for that, but I think that was a good discussion, and I appreciate your time. If we can hand the reins back over to Inspector Ward for his report, that would be just great.
Okay. So we'll go through this. I'll try to buzz through this pretty quickly. I'm sure everyone's already reviewed it. So if there's any questions when we're done, then we'll touch on them at that point. This is basically the second quarter. So we'll just go through a few things, touch on a few things. Moving on, going into the Police Services Board report, records management system. If you're following along, April to June. The only thing that pops off the page there is we can see the assaults. Compared to last year in that same period of time, 19 this year, 11, bit of an uptake. And basically what we're seeing is more people out and about. Last year at this time, there were still restrictions in place. This year, there's not. So we're seeing more of the restaurants, the bars, more things are happening, and ultimately leading into more types of violent crime that way. But again, at the end of the day, and I reiterate this to all the police services boards, Dufferin County is a very, very, very safe community. So when you see these numbers, we have a lot of 1s, 0s, 2s. There's not a lot of big crime going on, and that's ultimately the way we like it. As you see the percentage of change, I always look at the percentages. Again, numbers are numbers, right? You can be interpreted however you want. So we had a 38.5% uptake in some of these violent crimes. So again, right, it's minimal and very controllable. Where we look and we see a decrease, which is again nice, is when you get into the property crimes area. Again, we're looking at break and enters, last year 5, this year 7. Theft unders, as you can see, is a decrease, which is nice. Where other areas in the community are getting hit with a lot of unlocked vehicle thefts. Orangeville, knock on wood, has not had that influx like other little communities around. So that's positive. Frauds, again, we're still getting inundated with. The big one again is the grandfather fraud stuff that's going on, where you get someone that calls and gets you to tell you, it's grandson Jimmy or whatever, and then they get them to suck in the money. And unfortunately, we're still having a lot of those types of frauds happening in the communities. And there's been, messaging campaigns gone out and lots of messaging out there, but there's still, unfortunately, there's still people being trapped into those type of frauds. And again, the mischief side of the house for this period of time is down, again, 23.5%. So again, up overall for the year to date, but still nice to see those negatives, which means our calls for service are down in those certain areas. One of the places that we're up is the drug crime activity. And as you can see, we've had an increase in our possession charges, an increase in our trafficking charges. So again, overall, there's a large uptake there. There's a lot of good work being done by our community street crimes unit. And I don't know if you saw the recent media release that just went out with one of the arrests and warrants that was done. I mean, that knocked off a big player in the area. So
yeah, congratulations to your team. It's amazing. It's unnerving that's going on, but it was amazing what you and your team did, Inspector Ward. So congratulations. Yeah,
they're. I mean, I pat them on the back every chance I get. They're doing really good work out there, and it's nice to see the results. I just had something pop up on my screen, says 5 minutes left in your meeting. I don't know what that means.
Should be okay.
Okay. Moving on, this is just a snap. This is the first quarter. I guess these numbers weren't available when we did our first quarter report. So this is just the overall charges based for Dufferin County. And again, right, when anyone challenges me to say that there's not good work being done out there, I can throw stats at them pretty quick and show for those first 3 months, we laid almost 2,800 charges within Dufferin County. So, I mean, a lot of good work. And then the next page shows the next 3 months. And again, consistent with 2,723 charges. So there's a lot of enforcement being done within Dufferin County. So it's good to see that.
That's great.
Moving into the traffic file collision registry. Again, we're not going to go through all these, but you can see the incident type, which is either property damage or non-fatal injuries, and then the primary cause of the motor vehicle collision. So I mean, quite a few collisions in the 3 months. And again, onto the next page, nice little fancy chart that kind of shows we've had an increase from 21, right? With the property damage, we've had, 121 last year and we're up to 202 this year. And again, it kind of relates back to there's a lot more people out and moving during the day. And when we get that congestion, they bump into each other. And again, with the injury stuff, again, last year 12 at this time, this year 14. So again, very consistent. And I'm trying not to, I knock on wood when I say this, over all the amount of traffic we have that comes through here on a daily basis and ramps up on the weekends, especially in the summer. We've been fortunate, whatever you want to call it, lucky. I put it out to the good work of the officers out there. We've only had one fatality. And so that's, again, right, I don't want to jinx us and I want everyone to knock on some wood, but that's, our enforcement piece out there is doing its job. And the one fatality we had was very unfortunate and a very sad event. So we like to make sure that we keep the enforcement and the education piece away so that doesn't, those fatalities just don't happen on our roads.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the part one summary. So the tickets, as you can see, pretty consistent with last year. Actually, we probably up a little bit with our enforcement piece. So again, we're already at 631 part ones for this year. So we're on track to be consistent or maybe above what we did last year, which is good to see. And then the part threes, again, pretty consistent to where we were last year. Again, with 69 this year already. And just to reiterate, the part threes are a summons to court, anything over the fine of $500. And then the part ones are a ticket with under a $500 penalty. So false alarms for that for this quarter, total of 76. So I'll leave that for you to review on that piece of it. Again, right, when we talk about calls for service, there's a lot of calls for service right there.
Yeah.
False alarms. This is an obvious repetition to a certain place in town or a building or a home or a street, what happens to these people? Why is it not something that is dealt with as soon as the police have actually answered the alarm? And we find out, for instance, at one of the places, there were 7 or 8 repetitions there, and there were 5 or 6 at 4th Avenue. And I'm just wondering, what can we do about this repetition?
So we did pass a false alarm ruling at council. And Andy, it is not coming top of mind. Hopefully you can help me out a little bit, but what did we say? We're by the second one, they could potentially have a fine of $250. I'm making this up. Am I close?
I think you're close. I don't actually remember the exact figure, but it's around
Yeah,
there. But we did do something.
So there's
We
one
gave,
on here that's almost 10 times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. And Inspector Ward, are you providing that the quarterly information? Is it going back to the town at this point? I wonder if we just need to close the loop on that.
That would be something that, I mean, it goes to Mary Lou, and it would be up to Mary Lou to forward it to wherever she wants. Once she has this report, it becomes a public document, right? So
Okay.
that's,
Hey Lou, maybe we just need to close the loop with the clerk's department on that. I don't know. Is that me? Am I going to follow up on that, or is that something that you would do, Mary Lou?
I haven't received any reports to date, so I can follow up. Should I just reach out?
Would you mind tomorrow if we could just follow up with the clerk, maybe the 3 of us through an email, and if you would be able to initiate that once you're back in the office. And it feels like there's some sort of miss on a handoff going on here. That bylaw, just so everyone knows, it was just recently passed, so it's not like we're incompetent here. It's just need to get this up and rolling with everyone. So it would be new information, and it feels like there's a misunderstanding here in terms of who does what as we get going. And that who does what isn't with the OPP. It's with the politicians and the clerk's department, I think. Okay.
okay. I'll just finish this off here.
Sure, thank you.
We're just into the action plan results here, just some of the stuff, the nice to knows, right? The foot patrol stuff, for the year to date, we've already got 309.5 hours of foot patrol, 238.75 hours of ride. You're looking at the trouble with youth occurrences, year to date, 70. They break down over the specific times. Again, our mental health occurrences, as you can see, a little good news story. We have now, we partnered with Headwaters back a few months ago as far as making our mental health crisis unit a full-time unit. They have now hired 2 full-time crisis nurses, and we have one with us now basically 5 days a week. So we have that ability now to respond to those crisis calls within reason, right? They're not 24/7 yet, but we definitely have the ability, and we've already had them engaged in a couple of calls right off the hop, and have been very successful. So it's nice to have that. Nice to have that up and running, and we've everywhere to go but up, right? We got lots of room to expand on it. And again, Mary Lou, with some of the grant money we got that Solicitor General grant. That's what's pulling this all together, and we're going to see it succeed. And it's been great. We had a little bit of I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, but some of our partners didn't appreciate our partnering with Headwaters and the way that kind of played out. But I think we're going to show them in the end that we're not snubbing them. We're actually going to keep making the referrals to them, keep engaging them in these calls for service, because it's a team effort. And especially with the way the mental health things are going, we need everybody, all hands on deck to win this war, right? To win this battle. So it's we're just another tool in the toolbox. So it's good to have that.
That's great, Terry. Thank you. Yep, go ahead.
Just arrests impaired by alcohol, as you can see, year to date 8. Impaired by drug, we've got 2. So again, that's people still aren't getting their message. And again, our distracted driving charges year to date 118 within Orangeville. So again, those are those cell phones, right? People on their cell phones.
What's a fine for distracted driving right now?
It's $300 and some, I believe. 6 points.
Yeah. Significant.
It's not cheap. And then if your insurance company does a driver's abstract and sees that on there, it could affect your rates too. And then just to finish off, one of the things, we've got a small auxiliary unit. We're trying to recruit for more people. We have the okay to bring in some more auxiliaries. It's just, unfortunately, with the OPP, it's sometimes a bit of a cumbersome process to get them up and running. But we've got one of the busier auxiliary units in the province. These people are dedicated. They come out, they do our events. They're out doing foot patrols in the parks. They're really putting in the hours on top of their full-time jobs. And as you can see over the course of that quarter, they've put in a lot of hours. And so it's kudos to them that they're very much engaged and very much a part of this detachment. So that's very impressive too. And then just some other press releases that we throw in, some good news stories, some bad news stories, but at the end of the day, it's all about the good work that's going on. And one of the other things, it's not here. Well, we have the one press release for the Canada Day traffic campaign, and again, some really good numbers for the Labor Day weekend. We set a plan in play. We wanted to really, we have a hard time competing against Caledon. Caledon have like a 10-member enhanced traffic unit, and our little traffic management team of 4, and then we have to get, the platoon members kick in. Anyway, my competitiveness rubbed off on the members, and they went out, and we were first in the region and second in the province. Wow. We only lost out to Aurora Detachment, which is a traffic detachment. So we laid the most tickets and did the most enforcement in the central region, but then only second in the province of Ontario. So some pretty impressive work by the men and women of this detachment over the Labor Day weekend. It was I was pretty tickled pink. I sent a bunch of emails around with a championship belt, and
that's
just kind of the way I roll, right? So anyway, that barring any questions, that's my second quarter report.
Okay. I have a couple. Does anyone else have board members have any questions?
Well, you always have a couple.
I do. I was curious. I think we're going to talk about noise coming up, so I'll hold for that. So I'm curious about that program. But the other one is I just wanted to share with you, and I promised that I would do it in this forum, and it's not to catch you off guard. I just wanted to let you know that there was significant concern in the community about a particular issue, and it's related to Riddell and sorry, I'm losing my mind here, Montgomery and Riddell. And the issue is that people are heading north on Riddell. They come up to Montgomery. They see that Broadway is just beyond it, and they think they're going to get off the bypass. And apparently there's concern that folks aren't respecting the lights there, and the speed is quite high. And anyway, it got to the point there was quite a few folks weighing in saying that they'd had experiences, and I was called into it, and I just said I would mention it to you. So if you and your team might be able to consider that and to think about that, we'd be grateful. I'm sure you wouldn't have a comment because you wouldn't be aware of it, but that's certainly something
my only comment to that would be is why are they sending it to you and not calling the police?
So that Inspector Ward was the response. So just so you know,
that's a rhetorical question. That's a rhetorical question.
I understand. That has been an ongoing issue as we've transitioned, for sure. But I think people are getting better at it as they go, but they seem to like to call out the politicians and let them know. And anyway, I'm letting you know, and if it comes up again, I'll certainly continue to encourage them to report it for sure.
And we'll definitely take a look at it.
Okay, it's appreciated. All right, any other questions or comments for Inspector Ward?
No, thank you.
No, okay, very good. How about we move on to, I think we're on to item 8.
Do you want to receive it?
Oh, thank you very much, Mary Rose. I'm so excited to get the report and move on here that, yeah, could we have a motion to receive the ward report, please? Mary Rose and the seconder, if I could.
Ken, this time.
Ken, thank you, sir. And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Mary, thank you for the coaching. So that brings us on to item 8, and I just want to get back to my agenda here. Item 8 is the Zone 5 report, and I believe Member McSweeney, you are going to speak to this, sir. So this is the June 7th and September 13th Zone 5 meetings. Are you able to give us a brief summary, or how would you like to proceed with that?
Yes, I'll be very brief. So I attended, since our last regular meeting, there were 2 Zone 5 meetings. The first was June 7th, and the minutes are attached. I don't propose to go through them, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer them. With respect to the second meeting, that was held very recently on September 13th, and the agenda has been attached. And I assume that members have seen that. The Zone 5, the interesting thing was that this was the first in-person Zone 5 meeting for quite some time. There was no guest speaker. You see from the agenda that there was a placeholder to be announced. And in the end, there was no guest speaker. So we sort of launched right into the meat of the agenda quite quickly. And just by way of summary, Dwayne Sprague gave his update on stuff out of the ministry. The CSPA continues to drag. I think he said there would likely be a further announcement on the new legislation and the proposed timing of an in-force date sometime this week, the week of September 19th. Haven't seen it yet, but that there's a working group that continues to work on the related regulations. If he had to guess, Dwayne was saying that we're looking at June of 2023, but it might even be later. Mm-hmm. Once they're ready to go, there will likely be a 3 to 4 month lag between that, whatever consultation they're going to do when they're ready, and an in-force date. So I'm not in the know. All I can do is report what Dwayne says. Looks like they're trying to move it forward. I know that the new minister has indicated that the minister wants to move on things faster, so that may count for something. And that Ken Weber, who's the Inspector General of Ontario, is intending to meet with all of the zones. I don't know what the timing on that is, but is intending to meet with all of the zones. So I expect that meeting will be scheduled for perhaps even as soon as the upcoming Zone 5 meeting in December. Lisa Darling spoke. She's the new executive director of the Oapsb. Just briefly, she was indicating, as I said before, she's quite on the ball. She was indicating that Section 10 boards have more influence than they realize. She is the first full-time executive director of the Oapsb, and couldn't have chosen a better person. Terry, I know that you know her. Her experience in policing is extensive. she's quite young. I was surprised she's quite young for the amount of experience that she's had. She is smart as a whip. And she talked about revamping the Oapsb. So I know that's been long in coming. I think it's welcome news. It's a lot of work, but I think she's the person to do it. She talked about the restarting of the police engagement table, so that was good news. And the need for greater communication between the Oapsb and the zones, and greater transparency among the boards. And I think what she means by that is that, you know, sort of similar to the themes that we've talked about before, there's no need for the boards to be operating in isolation. There tends to have been a bit of a siloed effect over the decades where, you know, but for discussions that are had in zone meetings and the sharing of ideas and experiences at zone meetings, there's, you know, boards largely operate in isolation, and both with respect to their issues and their governance protocols and procedures, and absolutely no need for that. Quite to the contrary, the police services oversight community within Ontario is the perfect situation for sharing and standardization of governance materials, as well as shared experiences. So she is onto the point, and that was just terrific news for me, because she's been a bit of a sticking point with me over the years. But she is onto the point, and I think that she will do great things. It will be slow, but she will do great things in her new position. She talked about training, both board orientation training and rolling out training modules. I raised a couple of points, including the need for boards to take greater responsibilities themselves for orientating their new members and for ongoing educational training initiatives. And that is about it. But for two final points, Lisa McDonald was not able to attend, but she gave her report vicariously through the secretary. And that report included a bit of an update, which was sort of a non-update on the board amalgamation initiative coming out of the ministry. You may recall there was that initiative. I don't think that's gone anywhere. And the other focus point for the Zone 5 executive was board training and strategic planning initiatives, which we're starting and would be shared the next meeting. The final thing is, and I'll report on this in a moment or two, I did also share the results of my recent discoveries on political activity, but I won't go into that now. I'll deal with it in a few minutes. That's my report.
Excellent. Any questions for Member McSweeney on this? No.
Okay.
No, it's a very good report. Thank you, Ian. I'm curious, are you going to these meetings live now, Ian?
I did. Yeah, there was no.
Oh, you did.
There was no virtual. That was the first. This past one was the first one that they had.
So you went to Clinton? Did you drive to Clinton?
I did.
Okay. And how was you didn't mention anything about the new detachment building? Is it of significance? Is there something exciting there?
I'm from the outside. I didn't stay. I had to get to Toronto for another meeting, so I had to leave.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, you didn't take the tour. Oh, the meeting was somewhere else.
No, it was held. Yeah. So
I get it. Okay. And did you have snacks? Because snacks were on the agenda too.
Yeah, I saw the snacks. I think I.
Okay. Very good. All right. Could we have a? It says right on there 9 a.m. snacks, and then the business meeting starts at 9:30. It's quite an interesting agenda. Okay.
At the lovely Dreams Inn. Dreams with in outside of Clinton.
Very nice. So, motion, if there's no further questions or comments, motion to receive that report. That's item 8, the Zone 5 report. Member McIntosh, second, please.
I will.
Member Rose, thank you very much. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Ken, are you still with us?
Yes, I said yes. Did you hear me?
Okay, very good. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so this brings us on to item number 9, which is on page 62. And this is the overall, this is a survey that police services boards all had to input to. I don't know, Inspector Ward, did you want to speak to this item? Is there anything to come out of it as of yet, or are we just a little
Mr.
too
Chair,
early?
I haven't heard any updates on that yet. I know it went out and the police services board
Okay.
sent it back in, and I haven't heard anything further.
Do you think that will your organization be providing a summary of it, or will there be a follow-up, or do you know?
Usually, if they're putting out surveys, there will be.
Okay.
But again, I'm just as much in the dark as you are on it.
Okay, just for fun, if we could, I think this board is curious how what we inputted, because we did spend some time on it as a board, versus what what would the other boards have said. We'd be curious to know.
Yeah,
and
to be honest
if there
with
is
you,
a summary.
Yeah, I don't have any updates on that whatsoever.
Okay, would we maybe Mary Lou, if we kept this as an active file, and we'll just maybe bring it back at maybe later in Q4 or something of this year, we'll bring it back and see. Okay, very good. I don't think there's anything to receive. There isn't any information there, so maybe we'll just move on to item 10. And this is the joint meeting minutes. I think it's curious, like why would we be receiving the joint meeting minutes at this late date? The reality is it's put out by whomever that board that hosted it. And it's not necessarily on a timeline. It just simply needs to be done before the next meeting. So we do have those now. And that next meeting, I don't think it's scheduled until like December. Is that correct, Terry?
I'm showing October 26th on my sheet here, but I don't remember who was going to host the next one.
That would be a really funny time to have one if we were.
Yeah, I just have a sheet here with meetings and it just says the 26th joint PSB, but I can't remember how we ended that last one.
Does it, just if I was to.
So the next one.
It'll be on the very bottom of that sheet, right?
January 20th.
January, that's what I thought, yeah.
Okay, so the 26th is a not then?
Thankfully.
Okay, I will take that off of there.
Yeah. And that was done because the lame duck status, right? Okay, very good. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, we've talked about this board meeting previously. It's just the minutes have arrived, so I don't think there's anything new there. So I guess I would ask, unless there's questions, we just simply receive. Does anybody see it differently? Okay, good. Mary Rose has moved that we do this. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, I think Ian beat everybody there. So all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. And so we're on to item 11. And Inspector Ward, I think this is just simply here to check back in as well. It seems like it's one of those items that we have ongoing. There was a presentation done a while back, and I know your group was somewhat involved. As a board, we haven't heard anything, and I know it's not something that the police would lead, the police would support. I'm just curious, has your team heard anything more, or?
So from my understanding, two things I'll talk about here. One,
Okay.
in the last time I talked to Constable Roach, there had been no one step forward to request any type of training or meeting. So that's a no.
Okay. Yeah.
On that note, just to make the board aware, Constable Roach has gone to do a 3-month temporary assignment with our VIP security unit out of Toronto.
Wow.
So she will be out of play until the end of the year. So Constable Andrew Fines will be stepping into that community liaison role. So this is his first week. He's just trying to get his feet under him. But eventually I'll make sure that he is introduced to the boards and go from there. We've kind of got some other projects we're going to get him involved in, and but he will be the point of contact.
Oh, very good. Well, congratulations to Officer Roach. She was amazing in her role, and we wish her well for sure. That's great. I wonder then what I'm going to do, board members, if there's disagreement, let me know, but I'm going to reach out to those public members who brought that forward to us in the first place and just ask. It's not for us to lead these things. We certainly support, just as the OPP would support. But I feel like we just want to tie this up, and if nothing's going to be done, then nothing's going to be done. That's fine. But all of us pursued it, and we'll see where we are. Does anybody have any objections to me doing that, or?
No.
None whatsoever.
Okay. Okay, very good. So I will follow up with them and see what happens. Again, do we need to receive that, board members, or is that simply, I'm not sure there's anything there, is there? Mary Lou, do we need to receive the information, I guess?
I think we should receive the update and
receive it? Okay.
Yes, that you'll reach out to the community members that originally raised it.
Okay, very good. Can we do that, Mary Lou?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, so can we have a motion or a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Ian, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Ken, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Okay. And here we are on noise results. So your team, Inspector Ward, had updated us a little bit on what had happened with the recent noise push, and just curious if there's any other thoughts on that, or?
No, it's one of those things that, I mean, it was on our to-do list for the summer, right? There's so many vehicles out there now that put these modified mufflers on their cars. I guess it goes back to the day when we all drove around in the 5-liter Mustangs. Now they seem to be hopping up the Hondas, right? So we kind of gave it a bit of attention, and over the period of the summer, there was 5 improper muffler charges laid under the Highway Traffic Act, 8 warnings, and then again under the HTA, unnecessary noise, there was 5 charges laid and 5 warnings. So that basically over that 3-month period, that was our focus there. And I mean, still ongoing, right? Because the nice weather isn't over yet, and we still hear those gurs and burrs going down the roads. So,
okay, very good. Any questions, board members?
If only we could do something about those boats that are on the water with a similar noise problem.
What, on Island Lake?
No.
yeah.
It's not Terry's jurisdiction, it's Toronto.
All right, can we have a motion to receive that report?
So moved.
Mary Rose, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, Member McSweeney, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. So this is the POA grants, and I think this is for me to speak to, and let me just get back to my notes here. Yeah, so I think like the brief summary of what's happening here is revenues really, it's doubled since 2020, and even that statement in and of itself is unfair, right? Because we all know the pandemic impacted the courts in a major way. The interesting piece is expenses were only up 50%. So that's kind of a neat thing. So overall, the net revenue was 3 times greater than it was in 2020, which is significant. And really, the main drivers is the driver fine revenues have doubled. So they're almost $4 million now, according to that report that we just saw. The other thing that's in there that's of interest is the county is doing a space needs assessment. really, you know, there's issues politically there, but this is more of a POA piece. They need their space as well. So it's an interesting thing going in on the Zina Street building and trying to figure out what's going to happen there. And then the last piece that is interesting to me is the POA staffing. So they're short folks. They're actively looking for people, and you know, it seems to be the general thing within our country right now is you can't seem to get qualified people to do these roles. So it's of interest and impacting too. Terry, did you want to glean anything from that too? Do you have any comments on POA? No. Okay. No. Very good.
May I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
On number 4, where it says payments to service municipalities, and I see the amount that we are made available is 20,915. Why would Mono be at 41,795?
You know, why are they so much higher than us?
Yeah.
So so just so everyone's aware how this goes is we have a representative from council who looks after this report. That report is sent to the chair, who's me. I do debrief with it's Councillor Andrews. So I'd have to ask that question of him, and he'd be able to share that. So I can certainly look into it and see and get back to you. So it's the cost overall of Mono versus Orangeville costs, right? Okay, I will find that out and share that out with everyone. Okay, very good. Can we have a motion to receive that report?
So moved.
Mary Rose, thank you. Any seconder?
Second, Ken.
Second, Ken. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yep. So this goes on to the towing bylaw changes. And what I thought I'd do here is just summarize a little bit of what's going on in terms of the bylaw changes for towing and trying to be ever so tight with what's happened. But basically, the OPP had their policies in place, and then what had to happen was the municipalities had to catch up and have their policies in place as well. So, you know, trying to give a light summary of what's happened in that piece, but basically those tow truck drivers are now, you know, they're subsequently responsible for daily inspections, and they have to pass those daily inspections. They must comply with any direction on scene that's given by police, fire, or ambulance. They don't have a choice. They must take the shortest route once that they've got a call. There's also a code in terms of how they'll behave, and essentially it's you must be civil. In other words, they must be reasonable with the people that they encounter on the scene and their customers. One of the big things that was key is no chasing, and chasing is absolutely called out in this document. So for people who don't know, chasing is you can't go racing to an accident and make sure that you're first on the scene to get the tow. There's an OPP process to that and how they would be a part of whether or not they get that business or not. They have to have signed consents forms done for them. They have to have criminal record checks, proper insurance. They have to share their rates, and I just gleaned one rate for everybody. Basically, if you were in a collision, the rate that's posted is $275. So, and that's on page 164. I think that generally sums it. It's there's a whole piece to it too about storage yard rules, and you know, how you would keep a vehicle and when people could get that vehicle and what the policy is for each town as part of it as well. Yeah, it's quite a busy document, and I think where we're at with this is it's being shared amongst the other municipalities within the county of Dufferin. I'm not sure if they've passed it, but I think Orangeville is. Well, I don't think I know. Orangeville has passed And we're the Orangeville Police Services Board, so I think that's probably all that matters. But it'd be interesting. Hopefully the rest of the county passes it as well, and provides some clarity for those drivers and makes things easier on the scene for our police. Terry, did you want to comment on it at all, or?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, Mr. Chair, is that in all the other police service board meetings I've been to, most of them are entertaining it, and I believe it will hit their councils to be passed. But there is a couple of municipalities that aren't interested in it, and I don't understand why they're not. I don't know if there's a misconception that the policy that the police put in place, they think covers off the civilian side of it, but I'm trying to make sure that they understand that the policies we follow and that the OPP have put in place is strictly for police called tows. Doesn't look after the citizen on the side of the road. But
yeah, very good.
We'll see how that goes.
Thank you for sharing that. Like, from my point of view, this is an unfair characterization, but I felt like it was the Wild Wild West, and that's an exaggeration for sure. So take me with a grain of salt. I just felt like we needed firm rules in place, and the tow truck operators were calling for the same thing. So I think we're in a good place personally, and I'd be aligned to your comments for sure.
Yeah.
Member McIntosh, did you want to speak to that at all? Do you have any thoughts? Like, you went through the whole process too.
Yeah, I thought it was a good process. The tow truck drivers seem to be happy. It does certainly befuddle me to why places like, and I'll name one of them, Amaranth, don't want anything to do with the bylaw. I don't understand it. Maybe they don't understand it. So if I get a chance at county council, I will be asking certain municipalities why they're not interested.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, and board members, anybody wanted to weigh in on that?
Well, without being too pejorative, I think part of the answer lies in the municipality's leadership.
Interesting.
I didn't want to go there.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and I didn't go as far as I wanted to.
Very good. How about on that note, I ask for this document to be received. Can we do that? Okay, thank you, Mary Rose. Can I have a seconder?
Yes.
Yes. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ken, are you still with us?
Yes, I said yes. Did you
Very
hear me?
good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Didn't hear you. Okay, excellent. So we move on to item 15, and this is the OPP media release regarding grants. Would Mary Lou, would I be wrong to ask you, or Inspector Ward, would one of you two like to speak to this item, or?
Inspector Ward can speak to it. It's the grant that he mentioned earlier, the Dufferin Mobile Crisis Support Grant that we got through the Community Safety and Policing Grant. Wonderful. There was $450,000 awarded to the Orangeville Police Services Board to fund this mobile crisis unit for the next 3 years. And Inspector Ward, you might have something further to add to that.
No, it was just, I say no and then I start talking. It's basically what Mary Lou says. And again, it just goes into our whole kitty of grants that we've been very successful with, thanks to Mary Lou. And it brings a needed resource to the community. And with that money, it funds the officers, some equipment. For lack of a better term, it's just fantastic. And we're able to do things now that we weren't before, and things that Dufferin and Orangeville in particular have never seen. And we're there really helping the community and really going to get a handle on that whole mental health crisis and the emergency side of it, with when police become involved and have to interact. And it's listening to that whole autism presentation as well, and it just drives home. We're jack of all trades, right? We're jack of all trades, master of none. We get a little bit of training in this, we get a little bit of training in this, and we get a little bit of training in this, and then we get told, go. And when we're able to have these subject matter experts, and especially with the crisis nurses that are there, they take the lead on that, and we're there just to support them. And it's from what I've seen, how that project will work, and what I've seen ours already do. It's great to have it in the community. So again, to Mary Lou, thank you. And maybe we could contract her out or something. Like, is there a big budget for contracts to bring her back just to write grants?
It was a very humble way of putting that, Terry. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay. Any board members, any questions on this?
Just congratulations.
Yeah, it's a huge win. So well done for sure. Okay, so we have a motion to receive then, please. Yeah. Andy McIntosh, and seconded by Mary Rose. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So board members, feel free to weigh in on this comment as I'm going to make it, but it is 6:40, and I'm looking through the rest of the agenda. We're going to get through the agenda, but I want to be fair to Inspector Ward. I'm not sure that we require you, Inspector Ward, for the rest of these things. I'm just trying to be cognizant of your time, sir. If you wanted to sign off, you're certainly welcome to do so. If you'd rather stay, you're welcome to do that too. And board members, if I'm missing it and I'm dismissing them too early, speak now. But
before I hit this big red button,
yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and I will check out. But again, if anything comes up in the meantime, please contact me, Todd, tomorrow, whatever, and we'll definitely get you what you're needing. But again, thank you. Good meeting as always, and. Again, as I reiterate before I sign off, this has been a good board. We've done a lot of good stuff, and we're still got a lot more work to do. But it's been a pleasure. So,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'd echo those comments, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you and working with you. So thank you.
Sorry,
okay.
So Chair, just before Terry goes, Terry, and I'll reach out to you separately on this, but at some point in October, I need to schedule about 30 or 40 minutes with you to talk about our board policy project and the OPP operational component of that. I raised it with you a number of months ago, and we've just been working away on it. So I wanted to socialize where we are with you on that. So you can leave it to me to get in touch with you, and we'll set something up.
Sure. Sounds good, Ian. I just want to let you know that I'm going to be gone for most of the month of October. I'm being sent on a critical incident command course. So it's a 4-week course starting in the middle of October. So,
November.
Yeah, and I'll still be available here and there, but just so you know that if you do send me an email and I don't get back to you right away, that's why. So.
That's fine. Thanks, Terry.
Just out of curiosity, who will be? Do you want me to come down and run the store, or is there something else?
I think you should. I'd like to see you come down.
I think that's a job for Mary Lou.
No, staff. We'll still have Staff Sergeant Jellicoe be here, and he'll be looking after things while I'm away. But as you know, and I think I'm never out of touch and never out of the fight, so I'll still have my ear to the ground for this. So don't be afraid to reach out. So,
all right. Well, thank you for your time, Terry. We appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Good night. So, board members, we're going to keep going here. We're on item 16, and this is the claims for special remuneration. That is on page 185, if you're following along. And this was the claim submitted in June.
And May.
Any comments, questions on the claims for special remuneration? And if not, I'll just ask for approval.
Yeah. So sorry, Mr. Chair. It's May, June, and September, all for $1,000 in total. So just to be clear, and I'm happy to move. I'm happy to move for approval.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I will.
Okay, very good. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. And then the next one is the special remuneration report. this, maybe I'll just give the background for everybody. So this is all of the special remunerations that were set up, who got them, what the dates were, and what the total amounts were. And the reason we're doing this is to be as transparent as possible as to the what and the why of why these people would have them, what the special meeting was, what it was for, and the date. So does any board members have questions on this? I don't think we need to go into great detail. It's just, there is the details.
Just a point of clarification. Mary and I
Sure.
About this, Mr. Chair. So we decided that this report would reflect, I mean, it's a 6-month rolling report, that it would reflect the claims that were submitted and were approved within the period, as opposed to the actual event that gave rise to the claims, just so that we could make sure that we consistently captured the same information at each time. And the members will recall that this semi-annual report is actually a requirement of our remuneration policy. So this is fulfilling that.
Okay. Very good. So, sorry, are we through there? Did we receive this? Did we not? No, thank you, Mary. It's that point in the evening where it's getting late. So can I have a motion to receive this report?
I'll move, Ken.
Ken, thank you. I'm a seconder.
Seconded.
Mary Rose, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you. So now we're on to item 18, and this is the upcoming spring conference. And basically what we're saying is we are going and we are sending our representative, who is Member McSweeney. He'll be attending.
Well,
and the cost. Sorry?
This is the conference that happened in May.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You've attended. Excuse me.
But
Excuse me.
it'll be a short report because I can't find my notes.
Oh no. Well, you know what we should do, Ian? Would you like to just have this as a carry forward onto another meeting then when
I would, because I have no independent recollection of what.
well, let's go over quality as opposed to quantity. So if we could take this and we'll move this item forward to our next meeting and we'll report on it there.
Thank you.
If that's okay, Mary Lou. Do we need
Yes.
a motion to do that, or can we just move on? Do we need a motion to move it to the next meeting?
I think the minutes should reflect the
Okay,
May
let's do that.
for me and that it's being put forward.
Okay. Ian, you probably shouldn't make that. Andy, can you make that motion? Can we do that? Okay. And Ken, do you want to second that?
Sure.
Great. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone. So then this is the September service standards, and why we have the service standards again is just there's key dates that have to be hit for the meetings, and then there's key dates post the meetings. I'd like to tell everybody.
Website.
I think you missed one.
Yes, number 19, PSP website review and next steps.
I'm sorry. On the sheet that I have, I know there was 2 agendas sent out. I must be on the old agenda. There's no 19 on my agenda. It goes 18 to 20.
So
Okay.
19 is the one we're looking for.
Okay, so 19 is a website update.
Yes.
I will do that, and Mary Lou, you can chime in. So
Okay.
Mary Lou and I have made a couple of adjustments to the website to do a couple of things. So I invite, if you haven't looked at it recently, I invite you to look at it. An adjustment to have the website reflect the months where we don't have a meeting. So when you look at the agenda or the minutes that are posted and see gaps, then we now identify the reason for the gap, which was that we didn't have a meeting. And I think, Mary Lou, you raised the next amendment, which was to have some additional wording in place to guide the public members to proper instructions for participating in electronic meetings. So the website now contains those instructions. And I think you actually posted those changed that changed wording online, Mary Lou. Am I right about that?
That's correct. Yes, I have.
And I think there was probably some other adjustments, but I think your current wording reflects the other little minor things that you and I were talking about. So perhaps, Mr. Chair, if members haven't already done so, they can have a look at the wording of the website, and maybe just a to-do to all members. If anyone has any further ideas or further tweaks or further suggestions, they can channel those through Mary Lou, and we can talk about them next time.
Very good. Okay. Can we have a motion to receive that, or is there, my apologies, is there questions first? No questions? Okay, so Mary Rose has made the motion. Could I have a seconder? Andy, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just for fun, I see the error of my ways. You've caught me. I work off the thumbnail, and I should have gone back to the agenda. So apologies, everyone. So now we are on the action register review, which is item 21. And on item 21, it speaks to the key dates that were supposed to be met in anticipation of this meeting. And then there's some key dates post this meeting as well. I'd like to say that, first of all, that I beat my dates by quite a few days this time. I was very organized. How's that? Anyway, I think we did quite well so far. It'll just be a matter of handling the post. Any comments on this, board members? No.
We 100% on the pre. So
yeah, Mary Lou, is it still working for you? Is it beneficial for you as we set these dates? Is it helpful, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, it works perfectly. Okay. I put them in my calendar in advance and I work towards them. And you guys have been fantastic to meet the deadline. So it's working extremely well. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so can we have a motion to receive item 20?
So moved.
Mary Rose, thank you. Seconder, if I could. Ken, thank you.
Ken,
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so now we are on to item 22, and that is not on the thumbnails for anybody that's wondering. So it's the ongoing board policy project, and Member McSweeney, you're going to speak to this item.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend much time on it. It's the action registers there. Members will recall that we developed the action register to keep track of the various projects that we have ongoing, who's responsible, target dates, and status. So this is just Mary Lou is in charge with keeping this current. And Mary Lou, I see that this version is the May 12th version. I don't know if there's a more current version or if you're holding back revising it in anticipation of moving it forward as we move our board policy project forward or not, but it looked fairly complete to me.
I apologize. I did send out one, I thought, effective September. Perhaps I pulled the wrong one into the package, but it just indicated a number of dates that were spent working on the policies, the 13 policies that have been completed, and the semi-annual remuneration report were the additions, as well as reviewing the Dayforce with the board members. Those were the things added to the action register. I can send out tomorrow, if you don't have it, the action register for up to September 20th.
That would be great.
Okay.
I've got something here that goes very good for the 22nd, so I must have the updated one.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, very good. So that's item 22. Motion to receive item 22.
So moved.
So moved.
Mary and Ian, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 So item 23, I'll be quick. So in my view, we shouldn't be online anymore. I think we agreed we move to a hybrid model. I'd like to see our meetings be in person with public access live. I think everybody's in agreement to that, and a hybrid option as well. The issue is as time's gone on, we don't have a spot to meet just yet, and there's two problems. One is the OPP boardroom is maybe not ideal to meet at, and then the second one is council chambers is still not available just yet due to technology issues. So what I've done behind the scenes, everyone, and I spoke, well, our acting CAO, Ray, has agreed that this is an issue and that he would find us a place. He knows it's a need that needs to be addressed quickly. I was at a public event with him last night, and Deputy Mayor McIntosh was there as well, and I spoke with him again about it, and he was going to get back to me toot sweet. So I would imagine for next meeting we'll have some sort of resolution, and I've just marked it down again to follow back up with him. And Member McIntosh, if you happen to see him before I do, perhaps you could mention it as well. But I think we're at a point now where it's fairly urgent. We should be following through in person here. If we can, with the hybrid model. So there can be some of us here and some of us not. Anyway, that's my update on that. So can I have a motion to receive that information? Mary Rose, Ian, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so item 24 is the amended board secretary contract. And we've discussed this. It just had some changes that needed to be made and finalized, but there isn't anything of substance here that has changed. I'm not sure, Ian, if you want to speak to it other than that, but that's my take on what's happened here with that.
So two things. We need to scoot back to item 22, but we can do that after I say what I want to say on 24. Yeah, just for members' recollection, this was the amendment to Mary Lou's contract in order to authorize her as being entitled to a special remuneration policy as being just like members are. So that's what was done. And I think everything had been done prior to our last meeting. It was just we were waiting for the executed version of the contract.
Okay.
And number 20.
Does anybody have? Oh, are we going to finish 24 before 22, or yeah?
We can do that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? On 24? No. Okay, motion to receive that, please. Andy and then Mary, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Did I make a mistake on 22, Ian? Sorry.
Oh, I don't think it's a mistake. I think you just moved by it, and not surprisingly, because we've talked about it a little bit and are yet to talk. Well, we talked about it in closed. So I just want. I don't know if any members of the public are actually on. But if they are, I just wanted to let members of the public know that the board is engaged in an ongoing project to produce a comprehensive governance document, which includes our bylaws and policies as revised to reflect the move from Section 31 to Section 10, and to sort of update those policies to so that they reflect more current circumstances, and that project is underway and is well in hand.
Excellent. Okay. I apologize, everyone. It's getting late here. Did we not receive that? I've done this twice now. We received
it.
Okay, so a motion to receive 22. Thank you, Mary. A seconder, if I could.
Ken.
Andy, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. And then that brings us to, we're going to skip to item 25, correct?
Yes, and I'll make this brief.
Very good. And this can be quick. The idea behind this was how can board members, we have two political people on this board, and then we have the rest, well, two appointees by the province and one appointee by the municipality. And what could those board members who aren't running for political office do, and how can they act? And Member McSweeney did some research and found out what the thinking was on that. And Member McSweeney, do you want to speak to that?
So I haven't yet addressed this in closed, and I will in a more detailed way. But the bottom line is that quite apart from members of council, the members of police service boards in Ontario as in that role are not considered to be public servants because they're not employees or appointees to a public board as defined under the Public Service Act of Ontario. Therefore, they are not subject to the political activity restrictions in the Public Service Act of Ontario. However, as board members, we continue to be subject to our code of conduct. And so that the issues relating to potential transgressions with respect to overstepping the code of conduct in the course of campaigning for whether it's a municipal, federal, or provincial election are covered by the code of conduct. And they basically things like don't represent yourself as a member of the board with respect to your political views. So I found that surprising. I found it surprising we weren't public servants. I'm glad of it because the restrictions under Part 5 of the Public Service of Ontario Act are far more comprehensive and require consultation with our ethics executive. But the good news is, as members of police services boards, we are not public servants.
Okay. Very good. Any questions, board members?
No, thanks for the research.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everybody just wants to make sure we're doing the right thing, right? So
Right.
it's good. So item 25, political activity. If there's no further questions or comments, can we have a motion to receive?
So moved.
Okay, Mary? Andy, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, very good. So we are on to item 26, and that is the public meeting minutes of May 17th. Any comments on the public meeting minutes from the May 17th meeting? No? Okay. I have a
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, and this is in the agenda itself, so perhaps I don't need to say it, but members will recall that we did pass these public minutes in addition to the in-camera minutes at our special meeting in June on condition that we reconfirm those minutes in a public forum. So that's really what we're doing today.
Okay. That's great. Any comments, guys? There's none. So can we have a motion to receive these?
So moved.
Mary? And do you want to second
Sure.
that?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we're on to item 27, and item 27 is kind of fun. So it's volunteer appreciation reception. So this board would be in.
There is no information.
You know what? You're right. That's an odd thing to have there like that. I think it would be Andrea, would it not, Mary Lou? Oh, I think you're just on mute, my friend.
Yes, sorry, it would be Andrea Shaw.
Okay. So do you, those that aren't on the board or on council, do you have Andrea Shaw's email address in your computers, or?
Yes,
Do you want
I
us
can
to send
forward that.
Could you?
I actually received this from Andrea by email, so did not.
Okay, great.
Members did, and I reached out to her and asked to make sure that Mary Lou was invited, and so Mary Lou, hopefully she's done that.
Yes.
Okay. Could we, would you mind following up with Andrea, Mary Lou, and just asking for Mary and for Ken to make sure that they got invited?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, very good. And then I think that is the end of my thumbnail agenda. So good, by the way, Mary Lou. So easy to use and super helpful. So I really appreciate that. I think that's the end. I'm just back at our agenda now.
You received the invitation.
Okay, we're gonna do that.
We
So
need
if
to
we could,
receive the invitation.
yeah. Can someone make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Ian and Mary, thank you. All in favor of receiving that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then I'm noticing here in 28, and again, I guess we got the documentation, but we're also going to have the renewals here. Maybe I'm confusing before. I think I am. I'm confusing closed with open.
Yeah.
So the provincial appointee renewals, so member Ken and member Mary Rose have both been brought on for another 6 months, and those are the dates that are in there. So congratulations to the both of you for signing up for another 6 months on the Police Services Board. And I don't think there's anything here to share at this point. They're both provincial appointees, and the province is in charge of that. And obviously, the province deems these two worthy recipients to be valuable members of the board. So congratulations, and I think I'll just ask for a motion to receive the information.
So moved.
Member McIntosh, member McSweeney, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So question period. Number 29. Mona, is there any questions on the line? I don't think there is, eh?
Through your chair. No, there's no one on the line.
Okay. Did you have any questions, Mona, for us?
No, I do not.
I'm getting chippy here at 7:05. Okay, so no questions. Presentations, we had one earlier, so there's none here. All the way down to new business. How about that? Item 34. Is there a new business from any members at this point? No, seeing none. Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, and just before I do, we're going to need to go back into the closed link and finish that closed meeting business if we could, board members. So just as a reminder. Sure, Mary, why don't you do that?
Mr.
So can I have
Before we adjourn, I wonder, do we need, we can talk about this in closed as well, but do we need to talk about a next regular meeting date, or whether we're having one, or when it is?
Yeah, thank you.
I would
Ian.
November.
Did you just say no? You cut out a little bit. Did you say November?
I would propose the third Tuesday in November.
I think that would be great if we could. And just as clarity, like I've forgotten, and sorry if, so we're going to go through the election, but if we're actually still in power until December, so we could have this board could still be in existence in November, but I think there's also meeting dates of the new council, so it could be a bit strange.
I propose we keep going until we're told to stop.
Well, I think so too. We've still got unfinished business at hand. Okay, why don't we do that? Even then, the new police services board wouldn't be meeting, so it still fulfills our mandates. We're signed up until December is the way I recall it. So I think that sounds like a good plan at this point. So the third Tuesday in November. Anybody have any issue with that? No.
We're not meeting in October then.
Candidly, I would prefer we didn't. Andy, I imagine you would feel the same. Yeah. And just transparently, why is it's it's an election time, and we're inundated trying to manage our personal things. So it would be great if we didn't. So I would feel comfortable with the third Tuesday in November.
So that, I think, is November 22nd.
Okay.
I think it'd be the 15th.
Is that, oh yes, there's November 1st.
Well, that's great. Don't try and convince Mary Lou of something. Gotcha. Okay, so third, do we need a motion for that to make that the meeting?
I think so.
I think so. So Ian, you'll make that, I would imagine. And is there a seconder?
Yes.
Mary, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Great. And so how about an adjournment? Can I have a motion for that?
I'll move that.
Mary, thank you. Andy, thank you. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll see you guys on the other link. And Mary, if you could just stay on the line.
I will do that.
That would be great. Okay. See everybody in a second.